But we'll start with Mikel Arteta, who has doubled down on his post-match comments in the wake of Saturday's controversial 1-0 defeat at Newcastle. Arteta and Arsenal have faced criticism in the wake of those comments and also for a club statement talking about unacceptable errors. But rather than back down, Arteta has today stood by his comments. Well, for more on this, we can cross live to our reporter Dharmesh Sheth now. Dharmesh, good afternoon to you. Arteta was speaking at a news conference to preview tomorrow's game against Sevilla, but it was dominated by questions about last Saturday, wasn't it?
I think you can safely say, yes, that was the case. I'm sure Mikel Arteta walked into the news conference hoping just to talk about this Champions League game against Sevilla, a game where Arsenal can actually qualify for the knockout stages if the other result in the group goes their way. But I think in the back of his mind, he was well aware that it was going to be dominated by those events at St James's Park on Saturday. He described the Newcastle United goal scored by Anthony Gordon as embarrassing and a disgrace. And then on the following day, on Sunday, Arsenal, as you mentioned, released that statement backing Mikel Arteta's statement and saying, look, unacceptable refereeing once again. Now, I put it to Mikel Arteta that on reflection, you know, a few days after the events at St James's Park, would he have done anything differently? Would the club have done anything differently? I think the answer was a resounding no.
It is my duty to stand in front of you, to stand in front of the cameras and give a very clear and honest assessment of what happens on the game. And this is what I did, reflect very openly how I felt that the team played and how the game was conditioned by these results with the decisions that were made. And it's the duty. My duty is to be defending my players, supporting my club, defending my people in the best possible way. And this is what I'm going to do time after time. And I do it not the way I feel, with the evidence and being as clear as possible. And I always do it. When we play, really need to say that. When we have lost, to take my responsibility, the first one me, to do it. And it's the way that I am, and I have to defend my club.
Yeah, very, very bullish Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta there. Now, I also put it to him that, look, not many people had seen him react in the way that he did at St James's Park on Saturday. I'd never seen Mikel Arteta react in that way either. And I kind of said to him, look, with that in mind, was it only to do with the goal that Anthony Gordon had scored, or was it other incidents in the past that had kind of culminated in that reaction from Mikel Arteta? I think the answer there was yes. Listen to this.
Things they don't happen overnight, you know, and when I was that clear and when I had all the evidence to stand for the words that I use in the media, it's because I feel strongly about them. But one thing I say externally, then as well internally to my players, is how can we play better, how can we be more dominant, how we can do the game the way we want, so giving no chance to the opponents. But one thing is my duty towards you guys, and then my duty as a coach to do what we have to do. And this is exactly what I've done. Nothing special, nothing different, and I would do it, and the club would do it again and again till this is right. And till this is right as well in what we have to do on the pitch to play better and win more football games. That's it.
Yeah, I think Mikel Arteta will be using what happened on Saturday to galvanise his players and almost use it as motivation ahead of this game against Sevilla. Early team news from that one. Interestingly, Gabriel Jesus has been named in the Brazil squad for the forthcoming international break, but Mikel Arteta says that he will not be available for the game at the Emirates tomorrow night. As for their captain, Martin Odegaard, remember he played 10 minutes, came on for the last 10 minutes in that EFL Cup defeat to West Ham United last week and didn't feature at all in the squad for that game against Newcastle United. He will continually be assessed ahead of that game tomorrow. They're actually going to be training at 2 o'clock. Arsenal will be filming the first 15 minutes of that and will be live at Arsenal training right here on Sky Sports News to be able to get more of a clue whether Martin Odegaard will be available for that game or not.
Great stuff, Dharmesh. Thank you very much. Well, we can get even more on this. We can speak now to our senior reporter, Rob Dorset, who's joined me now. Rob, what are we, 3 days on? We've still not heard from the footballing authorities on Arteta's initial post-match comments. Are we expecting to hear anything?
Well, none of them have said anything publicly yet, have they? And I understand we shouldn't expect that from the Premier League or the PGMOL, the Professional Game Match Officials Limited. Don't expect any comment from those, even though the Arsenal statement that came out directly called on them to do something. You remember the Arsenal statement said, PGMOL urgently needs to address the standard of officiating and focus on action which moves us all on from the retrospective analysis, attempted explanations and apologies. I think it's pretty clear that the PGMOL isn't going to get involved in a tit-for-tat discussion publicly about what they see as a single subjective refereeing decision. So don't expect anything from the Premier League or the PGMOL. But what about the FA? A number of very respected journalists have come out today and said that there will be no FA charge against Mikel Arteta. That's not as I understand it. It is still possible that the FA could come up with an action against Mikel Arteta. And that's because if you look at Rule E3, which is the one that concerns managers and players talking in the media, it says that any FA charge will come if a manager or a player makes comments about match officials which imply bias, attack the official's integrity, or which are personally offensive in nature. And so those other journalists are quite right. Arteta dodged all of those traps, if you like. But my understanding is, further on in Rule E3, it says charges can come if comments are improper, bring the game into disrepute, are threatening, abusive, indecent or insulting. So there is scope there for the FA to bring a charge if they want to. I'd expect a decision from the FA pretty quickly on this about whether they're going to charge Mikel or Arteta or not. And I think it's interesting as well that Arteta was asked in the news conference there which of the three possible reasons for Anthony Gordon's goal being disallowed would he say was the one that meant it should have been disallowed. Was it the ball going out of play? Was it the potential offside that they couldn't draw lines for? Or was it the alleged push on the defender? He didn't answer that. He moved on to the next subject. So I think that's left some of the authorities a little bit frustrated.
Yeah, and I mean, so we've had that statement from Arsenal. At the beginning of October, Liverpool released a club statement demanding escalation after Luis Diaz's goal was incorrectly ruled out at Tottenham. Is there a bit of a concern that this might become a bit of a trend and that the release of these club statements could become more of a weekly event?
I think there is a concern about that, yeah. But don't expect the Premier League to write to all of the Premier League clubs and say, look, can we cease and desist here? I think that would be like red rag to a bull, in truth. It's certainly very unusual for clubs to come out and give any statement about a refereeing decision, and we're looking at the Luis Diaz goal that was ruled out here. And it's very, very clear that that incident we're looking at now is very different from the Anthony Gordon goal that Mikel Arteta feels so upset about. That's what the authorities think too. I mean, that goal we just looked at was a fundamental failure in VAR. Its communication systems didn't work. There were several mistakes between the on-field referees and the VAR at Stockley Park. An unprecedented error of process is how it was described to me. With Anthony Gordon's goal against Arsenal, there's a series of three marginal refereeing decisions which went against Arsenal, and Mikel Arteta disagreed with them. But that's a subjective refereeing decision. It's not a failure of the VAR process. And so behind the scenes, I think the PGMOL is actually very happy with the way the process is worked in giving that decision, despite Arsenal being very, very upset about it. So the Liverpool statement, the PGMOL have to take that on the chin. It was their mistake. It was a complete mess-up. The Arsenal statement, not so. I think the PGMOL think they got the processes right, and we can argue all we like about whether the decision of the referee, the subjective decision of the referee, was right or wrong. And look, it's very clear that Arsenal and Arteta feel very aggrieved about this, with good reason. I think a lot of people in football think that goal shouldn't have stood, myself included, because Anthony Gordon, in the build-up to his goal, Joelinton pushed the Arsenal defender Gabriel. But from the PGMOL and the Premier League perspective, that's a single subjective refereeing decision, the like of which there's going to be disagreements about a dozen times every week, so they're not going to get drawn into a debate on it, simple as that. But we are waiting to hear from the FA. Will there be a charge from Mikel Arteta or not? I guess we'll find out in the coming hours and days.
Yeah, we will. Rob, many thanks for now.